When we come to Mass on Sunday or during the week, we have a snippet of a gospel. And of course, there is no text without a context. And if we don't know the context, we're likely to misunderstand or not to understand fully. It's a bit like if you're going to the cinema and you arrived a bit late, you'd have missed the beginning. So you're puzzled. Why is he doing that? Why is she saying that? Well, had you come at the beginning, you'd know. Well, if the only time we hear of the scriptures is in church, then we're constantly arriving late at the cinema. We walk into something that's been going on for some time. In this case, thousands of years in today's gospel. No text without context. A half line which comes before the start of what we've just heard says, after these words, and then comes today's gospel. What were those words? Well, if we don't know, how can we understand fully the transfiguration, this moment of glory? So it is a moment of glory. It's like lightning. It's dazzling. It's dazzling in Jesus, from Jesus, and with Moses and Elijah. Now, why Moses and Elijah? Well, that takes us back centuries before Jesus. Moses, the lawgiver, Elijah, the prophet. So they represent the law and the prophets, which helps to explain who Jesus is. They're not just walk-on parts. In fact, they talk. And they talk with Jesus. Now, again, we might think today's feast, the Transfiguration, is about sight. Jesus, an ordinary-looking man, is suddenly transfigured, as if a source of lightning, dazzling light. But the words matter, which is why Moses and Elijah talk with Jesus. Well, what do they say? They tell him about his, what's here translated as departure to Jerusalem. In fact, the word is Exodus. The law and the prophets, centuries before Jesus, now speak of what's to happen to him, the exodus of Jesus to Jerusalem. And that exodus, of course, mirrors and goes beyond the exodus of the Jews from captivity to freedom. Except that here, for Jesus, this exodus means being killed. So when today's gospel, that half line before the text starts, says, after these words, well, what had Jesus said? What were those words after which the Transfiguration happened? Well, it was the first prophecy of the Passion. That's what would happen to Jesus, he said. And not only would he go to Jerusalem to be tortured and killed, that would be his exodus. But in our own way, as Christians, as disciples, we're to mirror that. Because after these words include the words, take up your cross daily and follow me. Now, if we hadn't quite remembered that, had we walked in late to the film, well, how would we understand why this moment of glory, this sign of victory, was needed then? It's because the Passion had been foretold for the first time. And each of us have been told, take up your cross every day and follow me. And the reassurance that that will not be fruitless, that our pain wouldn't be wasted, that it wouldn't be love's labor lost, but gained, is in what we've just heard, the transfiguration. Now hinted at briefly, a few moments, to some sleepy disciples. We're actually told that. They were fighting an overwhelming desire to sleep. But as it says, they woke up enough to see this. And to hear the Father say, "This is my beloved Son, listen to him." Which of course helps to explain why it starts after these words. This is chapter 9 of Luke. There's lots more to come. But gradually, piece by piece, the disciples would learn who Jesus is and who they are. And unlikely as it seemed at the time, the disfigured Jesus, disfigured at its most in the Passion and in the crucifixion, is actually the one that's also transfigured. And their own lives, as always, at some lower level, thanks to the grace of God, has the assurance that all disfigurement will be transfigured in glory